change the image. And that's very important when I come here, that people don't think that I'm coming here to criticize a lifestyle. I'm not coming to Borough Park to criticize a lifestyle. It's my brother's lifestyle. It's my son's lifestyle. A black hat, a beard, the children with payas and tzitzis running down the streets of Yerushalayim. It's my children, my grandchildren. I'm not dressed that way, but I love them as much as I love anybody in the world. So I'm not criticizing your lifestyle, but you need to understand that if you want to have that kedusha, that lifestyle, you can't pick and choose the halachas. And you can't pick and choose how you're going to live when suddenly you have to interact with the secular world. Because everybody keeps saying, Dina nafos Dina, Dina nafos Dina. I hear it until I want to vomit. But nobody stops to think, what does that mean? What it means is, you live in the United States of America. You live in New York, or you live in a different city, there are rules. You don't want to abide by the rules, don't live here. Go to a country that doesn't have rules. You go to a country that doesn't have rules, you know where you'd live? You wouldn't live, they would kill you. Because you would be the first to go in a country that doesn't have laws. So the same laws that allow you to get food for your yeshiva are the same laws that you have to abide by. The same laws that allow you to daven 3 times a day in the shul of your choice, and wear a talis katan outside, and wear a beard and payas, and work in a hospital, and work in a law firm. When I started out as a lawyer, there were law firms downtown in Wall Street, that if you were a Jew, it was hard to get a job. Now, in those law firms, every day at 1 o'clock there are shiurim, where boys with yarmulkes are sitting and learning for an hour, and they're coming from Harvard and Yale, and they're working for goyish law firms that 35 years ago wouldn't hire a Jew. So I don't want to hear that you can't be frum, and that you can't work, that you can't earn a living if you're a frum person. It's just a lie. It may be a little bit more difficult, but it doesn't matter. It's difficult for me. When I got to stand up in court with 8 other lawyers who are Goyim, and a judge who's a Goy, and a client who's ready to kill me, and tell a judge, Your Honor, it's Friday, it's January, I got to leave by 2 o'clock, and everybody in the room hates me. You get used to it. That's the way it is. You want me as a lawyer? It's the way it is. You want to fight? Judge, you don't want this fight. You're going to lose this fight. 35 years ago, he would win the fight. But today, they can't win the fight. So you can go to any hospital in the city, in any of the most important wards, the oncology wards, the neonatal wards. Half of the doctors are wearing yarmulkes. Half of the doctors in Christmas in the hospital are from kids covering for Goyim who are off for their holiday. You know what a Kiddush Hashem that is? Aren't you supposed to be on call today? Yeah, my rabbi colleague is covering for me. It's a Kiddush Hashem. I'm not telling you your kids have to be doctors and lawyers and business people, but they're going to have to do something. You can't sit and learn forever, and even if you sit and learn forever, eventually someone in your family is going to have to deal with a government agency, or a law enforcement agency, or a taxing agency, or an insurance agency, or a banking agency. It's just not possible to exist today in this country by saying, I live on 13th Avenue. I daven around the corner. My kids go to yeshiva across the street. I'm never moving, therefore I don't have to do any of this stuff. And then what happens when your kids move? And what happens when they move and they need to buy a house? And they go to get a car. And something very important that the speaker Rabbi said in Yiddish, and Rav Grossman, Rav Shaw said, and Rav Ozeri said many of the tsaras that we bring upon ourselves are because we're trying to do good. That's the biggest heartache of all. One of the worst cases I ever had was a Rav who was trying to get people who didn't qualify for health insurance by lying about his pre-existing medical conditions. He was saving lives and violating the law. And you know what? He went to jail. Because the judge says, you know what? I'm not going to give you as much jail as you deserve, but I have to do something to deter this conduct. So he said to me, what was I supposed to do? I said to him, I'll tell you what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to go to a bunch of guys like me and say, I got a Russian who just came here. He needs a kidney transplant. We need $20,000 when he's going to die, and I would get you $20,000. You would not have to do a insurance fraud that requires 50 people to get indicted. Oh, I never thought of that. There are remedies. We have a great, giving, loving community. The Baruch Hashem has people in it who do such amazing things that sometimes you only find out about it in the context of the kind of matzav that we're now involved in. The kind of matzav that we were involved in last year or 2 years ago. We're good people, well-intentioned, saving lives, feeding people, paying people who don't have work, putting food on the table. Doing it inappropriately because it's easier. Because it's easier. How are you going to give someone in Eretz Yisrael who needs money a check from the United States? It's easier to get him cash. Yes, it's easier, but it's not easier if you end up going to jail for it. There are ways to do it legally. You can do an honest bank transfer. You can get that person cash in Eretz Yisrael by filling out the forms. Do you have to pay taxes? Yes. So, what do you get for your taxes? You have police. We have any frum policemen? Maybe 3 out of 50,000. We have a fire department. We have any frum firemen? Maybe 4 out of 50,000. Who runs the subways? Hasidim? We take this stuff for granted. It's part of the economy. You got to give in order to get all of these things. Who puts lights on in your house? You? The guy who worked for Con Edison do it. So you got to pay your electric bill. Ah, but if I hook into Schleimy's wire, I don't have to pay it. You're right. Until you get caught, then you pay. So you pay either now or you pay later, and when you pay later, it's always more expensive. So it's not so hard. It's living a life on a derech. It's very easy to do a Kiddush Hashem, and it's very easy to do a Chillul Hashem. And if you are careful, it's very easy to do a Kiddush Hashem. If you are careful, if you're not careful, it's very easy to do a Chillul Hashem. I'll tell you a great story. There's a friend of mine who has a little boy who's 5 years old. So he's on a bus going to a tennis stadium. It was the US Open.